All right, welcome back. We're going to jump in here with Luke chapter 14. We have a full house again tonight. We've got sitting over here to my left, I'll let him introduce himself.
Buster Nason.
Thank you for doing such a stand-up job of letting everybody know who you are. Straight
You're
across
welcome.
from me, we have
Kurt Penix.
Yeah, those two guys have been here for a long time, but tonight we have a new first time. He's a guest for now, but maybe we can get him back on in a minute. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
The silent guest, Daniel Ray.
So we've got the one and only Daniel Ray joining us tonight. Short notice, but we're glad he's here. Hopefully we can get more people from our church to jump in. It's going to be a great, wonderful time. But right before we started, Dad was about to tell us a story of how he somehow got a new shirt.
I got a new shirt.
Wow. And
Nailed it.
That's great podcasting at its finest right there. So this is how this story actually went down. Last week, I had been waiting for it to get warm enough for me to wear this new shirt that I got for Christmas. And so last week I was like, you know what, it is warm enough. I'm going to go put this thing on. So I pulled it out, cut the tags off, put it on real fast. And when I do, I am not lying to you, the arm went a good 7 inches past my fingers. And I was looking at it and I looked at the shoulders, and I'm a pretty large fellow myself. Like, my shoulders are not narrow by any means. The seam on the shoulders were almost touching my elbows. And I was looking and I was like, I don't think this one's going to make it to church. And I took it off and I looked at the size and I was like, I think I know what happened here. So apparently last Christmas, when my mother packed up my Christmas present, she gave it to Josh, and she gave me Dad's present. Josh tried his own way earlier than I did, so he sent it back, so it's no longer here, so I don't get that one. And Dad, I gave it to him, and he gets a new shirt. I get nothing.
Hold on, you cut the tags before you tried the shirt on?
You're supposed to.
Why would you not? Why would you put on a tag that's going to be poking you in the neck?
But you didn't try it on yet. You didn't know it was too big, and you'd already cut the tag.
I got it in Christmas. It's not like I can send it back anyway. The time has expired.
That just tells me you're not a truly large human. Truly large humans do not put a shirt on without checking it.
No. And you check it twice most times. Let me make sure this fit right.
Like, you got to do all your stretches, your poses, got to make sure it's not going to bust.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so we're going to jump in here before we just spend too much time in the weeds. And we have some questions that were presented to us from our youth group tonight. And I'm going to go, Kurt, do you want to pick out which one you want us to answer?
The most important one that has recently become even more important than ever is, why did God make mosquitoes? Now, that's something to think about.
That's a good one.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
My answer comes from Genesis chapter 3.
Okay, so after the fall?
It's part of the fall.
All right, so explain that to us.
So thorns and thistles in the ground, pain in childbirth, and they didn't say it, but I think mosquitoes were born that day.
I mean, I honestly think I would rather take thorns and thistles than mosquitoes.
I think that's one of our greatest punishments is mosquitoes.
Yeah, because mosquitoes always get me in spots where I've been sweating or something, and it just makes me itch like crazy.
Well, they're just terrible. I mean,
oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think, anybody at the table actually know what they contribute to life in the world?
Disease.
That's what I was trying to think of is there anything good that they do?
Not that I'm aware of. And especially the place that we live, they are coming out in swarms at this point when we're hitting like 90 degrees. Kurt, you got something over there?
Mosquitoes feed on nectar from flowers, contributing to pollination and plant reproduction. But we already got bees for that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it feeds on your nectar too, don't it?
Wait, so we're losing the bees because they're saying like we're having a bee shortage, and they're like, oh, it's going to stop pollination. So the mosquitoes are basically replacing the bees.
Yeah, I guess.
That's not a good trade.
A more obnoxious bee is not a good answer.
That's not a good trade. I want to go back to bees. I don't want the one that's just all the time buzzing around my head and trying to bite me. Especially on the face. I'm like, why? They always get me like right here below the ear or something. It's terrible.
You need a beard.
Well, I've tried to grow a beard before. It looks like I have the mange. So we're going to have to avoid that one for the time.
That'll make a mosquito not bite you, though, if you look mangy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It may attract more. Okay. So thank you, youth, for sending that one. But I don't know if we got a good answer for you. I think definitely I'm going to attribute it to the fall. And, Genesis chapter 3, it's one of those punishments we get just for being stupid and trying to think we can do it better ourselves. And as you can see, students, We did not do it better ourselves. We brought out mosquitoes. Way to go. All right. Now, real question. Have any of you guys ever been invited to something and you just did not feel like you belonged there?
I got a story for this one. So it wasn't necessarily an invitation, but I was finishing up school at State. I was almost done. I had to have a certain amount of hours, but I didn't need any other classes. So I signed up for what I thought was beginner's piano. And I was going to go in there and just have a real good time. That was the plan.
Hold on. Pause. So you're in college.
Yeah.
Paying good money to take classes.
I had to have a certain amount of hours.
You had to have hours.
But I didn't need any more classes.
So this is just like
this is a throwaway.
I've already paid for it.
Yep.
Who cares? Did you have to pass it?
Well, I got to get to the story.
Okay.
So I go in this room, and it's not much bigger than this room. It's like a high school classroom. There's 8 pianos in there. Each person's sitting at a piano. So I go in there, and I'm like, this ain't good right off the bat.
So you had to go, like, there were no desks.
No. There's just
piano benches with the piano. And so you're going to sit in front of a piano.
Yeah, and piano benches are sketchy for me already, just from a weight perspective. But anyway, I sit down. I'm like, okay, this can't be as bad as it's looking. But the teacher comes in, and she's like, okay, introduce yourself and how long you been playing piano. I'm like,
what?
Wait a minute. So I'm in spot number 8 because I was smart. So the first 7 people are like, this is me. I've been playing 12 years. I've been playing 8 years. I've been playing 13 years. And it gets to me, and I'm like, well, I'm finna fit in. My name's Kurt, and I've been playing years. And I said it like that because I'm smooth. And I'm like, okay, I can't get up and leave because there ain't but 9 people in this room. It's going to be a big deal if I just get up and walk out. So I'm going to have to stay in here, but I got to blend. So they said, all right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to plug our headphones in, and I'm going to give you a song to play. I was like, oh, headphones, we're good. I can just pretend. So I'm back there just pretending my heart out. I'm doing good too. And then
hold on. When you're pretending, are your eyes closed, like you're squinting, kind of pretending, or
no? I was looking at that sheet music. I was following something.
Ray Charles.
So she's like, all right, now we're going to unplug our headphones and we're going to play in a sequence, and we're going to start here and then we're going to go around the room. And I was like, oh, I'm burnt. So I wait and I wait and I wait. And as it comes to my turn, I get up and walk out. Don't say a word to nobody. Drop the class. I disappeared from the face of the earth.
No, you didn't.
I did too. I promise I did. I walked right out of there.
So if you could have somehow faked it the entire class,
I had planned to.
Were you going to like drop it after that?
No. I was going to fake it the whole way and see if I could do it. Just see how good I was.
You were trying to fake the whole semester?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Students, do not listen nor take advice from what you are hearing here. That is the disclaimer. Oh, man.
But I mean, that would have been impressive if I could have faked it for a whole semester.
That would have been impressive, but I'm just wondering what that first test would have been like.
Oh, I have no idea. I got on out of there. As it got to my turn, I said, I'm not supposed to be here, and just walked out.
I don't have anything like that in college, but I did have a class. When I walked in, I just had to take another science. It wasn't like anyone specific. And I was like, oh, chemistry, that was kind of easy in high school. I'll take it again. And so I walk in there, and the teacher, it was a Tuesday, Thursday class. It was Tuesday. The teacher led with, next class meeting, we're going to have our first test on the periodic chart, and you need to know like the 3 things: the symbol, the weight, the mass, whatever it is. She said that. I didn't even wait for her to finish. I just closed my notebook, walked on out, went down to the register. I was like, hey, I need to change classes because I don't need any science, much less do I need to fail the first test right off the bat because I'm trying to learn the periodic table. I guess that was probably the goal of that teacher doing that, was like, hey, we need
to get people like you out of the room.
Yeah. So here's one that when we lived in the Memphis area, and Brittany worked for a different company, that they had told Brittany when she worked there, like, hey, we have season tickets to the Grizzlies games. And if you ever want to go, just, sign up and blah, blah, blah. And so Brittany, she's like, hey, I signed up for us to go to the Grizzlies game. I'm like, cool. We're going to, just go see an NBA game. Hadn't done before. We get there and she shows me the ticket. And I said, Brittany, that says box suite. And she was like, I don't know what that means. I was like, that means we're not going to fit in at all. What that means. And so we get there, and you know how they have the people that are in like the almost like a tuxedo suit standing guard at the doors that are closed in the arenas. We had to go to them, and this person's looking at us like, "Oh, can I help y'all find where y'all need to be? Because y'all look lost." And we're like, "Yeah." And she looks at our ticket, and she's like, "Oh, so you guys actually okay? You need to come in this door." And so she was shocked. We were shocked. We go into the hallway. We go down, and she's like, "You're actually in that one right there." And Brittany and I walk in, and they open the doors to this, and it is, I don't even know how to describe it. It is bigger than this room here. And this room is probably a 20 by 16 room. It has a kitchen. It has all kinds of snacks laid out. And then it has your real nice, like cushion theater seating. And there's like 8 seats out there looking over the arena, and just walk out into it. And I'm like, Brittany, how many people? She was like, well, they told us that there was 8 seats, but they just really let one family go at a time. So it's just us. And I'm just like, yeah, hey, Brittany, enjoy this one, because this is the last time we'll ever get to do something like this. But it was really nice. Like, and you know, you get out there and you sit, and you're like, yep, this is my box suite. And everybody's looking at you like, wow, those 2 people sitting in that whole thing by themselves. But we did not belong. And we never went back. You got anything over there? You just always fit in everywhere you go, don't you?
Everywhere he goes.
Everywhere I go, I just fit in.
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you another embarrassing story before we get started, before we take too much time. This man took me to a wedding one time in Louisiana, and he embarrassed me so bad.
No. You embarrassed me.
No. So it was an outdoor wedding, and it was one of his cousins, I guess my cousins too then, and they were getting married, and they're like, hey, yeah, you know, I don't even know, like Britney Spears' sisters invited. It's going to be like this big deal because they're family friends. And we get there late, of course, and they usher everybody into their seats. And so they walk us right down the middle. We're late. They take us over to the side. They walk us back up to our seats. And I'm looking at these chairs. They're sitting out there on the lawn chairs, and they're like those tiny.
They're like 6 inches wide. And I'm looking at them thinking,
Well, I'm looking at the metal. I'm like, there is no way that plastic metal right there is going to hold any, like, that's not going to happen. So Mom, Whitney, Dad walk in. I'm the last one in. I see Dad sit in it, and I'm like,
more or less squatting.
Yeah,
with a chair
he puts one
me.
foot like behind him. And
I know that stance.
He does like a split squat stance. And he like eases down, like, okay, well, it's holding him. And I eased down on mine. It never stopped. It went straight to the floor. I'm sorry, the ground. I'm laying in the grass. Just the guy who ushered us in, he's dying out laughing. Like, he didn't even try to pretend or anything. I look over to my family to see if I can get any help. Not even a hand out to help me up. This man is just,
I didn't know this fella.
This guy's uncontrolled laughter, just laughing and pointing at me. And I'm just like, that's about right. That is how.
Oh, that's funny.
Yep. Daniel, got anything over there you want to share?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, let's jump right in to Luke chapter 14, and we're going to start in verses 1 through 4. We're not going to read it all, but we're going to give you the main idea of the story. Is anybody, Kurt, you want to give a summary of it, or you want?
Go ahead.
All right. And so you have, again, a Sabbath day, and Jesus is going to dine in the house of a Pharisee. While they're there, there's a man, my version says, suffering from dropsy. Is that what y'all say?
Yeah, dropsy.
Dropsy. So basically epileptic. And Jesus says, hey, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not? And, you know, this is like a big thing. I think we even hit it this morning in church, like what to do on the Sabbath. Can you do things on the Sabbath? And so Jesus just puts them on the spot. He's like, hey, before I do anything, what do you guys say? Should I do it this way? And they don't say anything. They use their Fifth Amendment right that doesn't exist yet. And he said, he just heals him. And then he goes on to tell him, you know, which one of you guys, if you didn't have an animal, he says, even a son or an ox that has fallen on the Sabbath day would not immediately pull him out. And they just couldn't talk about it. They didn't have anything that they could say.
Well, the funny thing about that, it says they were, in verse 1, it says they were watching him carefully. I mean, they was studying every move he was making, looking for him to do anything wrong they could complain about. And they had him in their sights, had the gun set on him. So, you know, Jesus, of course, He just said, okay, let's go on and nip this in the bud. Hey, is it lawful to heal on Sabbath or not?
Well, it makes you wonder if this whole dinner is a setup.
Yeah, well, a lot of the commentators I read said that this guy that had dropsy was more than likely a plant from Pharisees, that he was there for the purpose of testing Jesus.
So Daniel,
it wasn't to honor.
Yeah.
No,
him.
so the dinner invitation, and then you think they also planted the guy with dropsy?
Yeah, that's what some commenters said.
Wow.
But an odd thing too is on the Sabbath, they wasn't supposed to do a whole lot of cooking or anything, but yet they had a dinner set up for him. They was baiting him all the way around.
Well, with that they prep all that the day before. Like it's kind of wild. I mean, I think I've shared with you guys the story of when we were, I was in Jerusalem and, or in Israel for the summer, and we go to Jerusalem on a Friday afternoon, not even thinking about it because it's not on my radar that what even Shabbat is. Friday. Like it's Friday. Well, Sabbath starts at sundown on Friday, and it's still today. Like the whole place starts shutting down, and we really struggled to even find a place to sleep that night.
Where did y'all sleep?
We slept on the roof of a guy's hostel because he was a nice Muslim guy. He said, "Look, it's Sabbath. I can't take your money today, but you can sleep on my roof, and we'll get your room worked out tomorrow." And so we slept on a roof, and we don't even need to get into all those adventures that night. That was scary and terrifying. So Jesus is there, and you guys think that y'all say it's a setup and they're watching him closely.
Well, another thing about this guy, so I looked up dropsy to see what that was, and it's basically he has a fluid buildup somewhere in his body that makes him swell. And so based on Levitical law, that would actually make him unclean, is because he has blocked up fluid. And so even more of a thing of this is the Sabbath, he's also a guy that Jesus shouldn't be touching or dealing with anyway, if we're going by the standards of clean or unclean.
Well, especially like the Pharisees. So they said that, I wonder why they call it dropsy. Like I always thought that was like epilepsy. Like
no, it's like basically a fluid buildup that causes swelling. So like his face would be puffy and like he would have fluid buildup.
Well, and then, the Pharisees too, like they're there, which we've seen Jesus so many times. Instead of he touches a leprous person, he becomes unclean. The leprous person becomes clean. And so that's kind of wild in itself. But okay, so you're thinking major setup because why would this guy be there?
I mean, it's possible. It obviously doesn't say it in the text, but there are people that believe that.
Well, it's also like interesting. It doesn't say like any of the people started like running, like oh no, we got this guy who's coming in here to make us unclean. We got to take off and get out of here.
Well, the other thing that I thought was really cool is every time they come around Jesus, they try to catch him with a question. And Jesus completely flips that on them here, because when Jesus asks his question, nobody says a word because there was not a right answer.
Now that you and Daniel are saying that, it was probably a setup. It has me really thinking over here that this Pharisee is watching what's happening. Jesus sits down. They're about to start eating. And then here comes the plant, walks in. And Jesus is like, I know your schemes. And so instead of like immediately healing him, he just asks him that question. And he's like, I want to hear what you guys are going to say.
And so why do you think he asked them that? If you've got a son that's in danger, you've got an ox in a ditch, why do you think he went that route?
Well, with the son, I think it's because like it makes it a lot more personal that this is somebody that is personally connected to me, that is going to impact my life as to whether or not this son is pulled out of a hole. Whereas they're looking at these other people and they're just like, yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Was that what you were thinking? Like,
yeah, I think he's trying to appeal to their sense of decency. Like, hey, even you Pharisees who say you're the best in the world, like, even if you saw somebody that desperately needed your help, you would help them, right? You would do that, wouldn't you? Even if it's the Sabbath. And so he's putting them in a situation where they can't say yes or no. And so they just sit there and they're quiet. But he gives them the credit of being decent enough humans to say that, well, yeah, we'd help somebody if they really needed it, even though that's not what they're doing.
Yeah. And they didn't take his easy out. Like they could have been like, yeah, we would do that. Instead, they're just like, well, we just left Sunday service. They're kind of doing like my two boys after service. I said, okay, so why were we cutting up so much after I told you guys to sit there and be quiet twice? And they hit that whole like, don't look at him in the eyes. Let's just look down. And I was like, oh, you guys are so still now. Like a few minutes ago, we were so ready to play. So the Pharisees, they were all like, oh, we're about to get Jesus. Let's watch what he does. And then he asked them a question and they're just like, oh, I want to talk about it anymore.
But it's cool to see him flip that script on them because they're always trying to do that to him, and then he immediately does it right back to them.
I think what really hushes him up, he compares human life to an animal.
Yeah.
You know, would you not get your ox out of the ditch? Would you not do the same?
And it's a good thought process there, because he starts with like their son. We know that those Pharisees sitting there, unless there's just some like really crazy Pharisee, they're going to pull their son out of the ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And so like once he has their heart softened up to the same way you'd pull your son out. Now I'm going to talk to you about your ox. Yeah, you would pull it out too. And we're talking about another person here.
Yeah.
And so like if we can get you to realize that you would do it because you care about your animals enough, we definitely should care about these other people. Yeah, good stuff.
So the person that was there, he received a blessing, even though it was more than likely a setup. Have you ever wondered where his heart and his mindset was during that time?
That's a good question.
Well, it brings into it, like you're asking, like, did he know he was a plant?
Yeah, I mean, did he know?
Or like, did he know? Like, he may have been invited by the Pharisees to say, "Hey, Jesus is coming to eat with me. Come over. He may heal you." And they may have let him like think it was completely innocent. Or do you think he was in on it?
Well, I don't think it was in on it, because I almost think that Jesus knew if he had evil intentions, Jesus probably would not have healed him at that moment. I don't know. That's my way of thinking.
Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe he would have, just to say, "I still love you even though you're completely rotten."
But if he was supposed to be there the whole time, he wouldn't have left after Jesus healed him. But Jesus healed him and sent him away. He didn't stay for supper.
Yeah. These folks ain't got no good food anyway. Go home. Yep. Give me something to read up on this week and try to figure out the answer myself.
Hey, that's what it's all about, right?
Yep.
Like we dig into this. That's, you know, when you ask a good question, it usually leads to more good questions. And if you just keep asking questions, you can end up getting somewhere good.
Might need to get a hotline going where folks can call in.
We need that.
I don't think we're ready for that.
We need that.
Could you imagine? I could just see your son over there. He'd be like, "Oh, they're taking the calls."
He's the one who asked the mosquito question.
I know exactly why he did, because they've been tearing him up out there turkey hunting. What happened with him? That's why he's wanting to know about those mosquitoes. All right. Why do you guys think like the Sabbath is what the Pharisees were so hung up on? Out of all the things Jesus was doing, like, why is the Sabbath?
They were all about control, and that was a way to control people. Like, for them to say, "Hey, here's a day where you can't do anything that we say you can't do." They loved power. They loved to be able to express the standing that they had in the community. And so if you're not in line with what we're doing, you're wrong, and we're going to call you out on it. Even though it's not what Jesus said, that's what we said.
Gotcha. And I'm sure it really ticked them off when Jesus is like, "I am the Sabbath."
Yeah.
Well, they try to, I also think, use God's own words against him, because God said the Sabbath is holy, a day of rest.
Mm-hmm.
They just take it out of context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the whole time they're trying to like push people to have rest, they're avoiding letting people be healed and really have better rest. Right. And Jesus is like, "I'm here to give you a glimpse of what real rest is going to look like." Because when we get real rest with, once we're in heaven, on new heaven, new earth with God, it's going to be way better than anything we have. Now, the other question is, if Jesus knows it's going to tick him off, why does he keep doing it?
I think he might have enjoyed it a little bit.
You know, it's scripture, because Elijah was taunting the prophets of Baal. So, it's okay to taunt people, I believe.
That's what you gathered from this?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my goodness. We may have to put out like some kind of disclaimer, like this is not for children under the age of 18, because take it for a grain of salt. Be careful, parents, letting people listen to this. But I am with you there, because a lot of people tell me that I'm not supposed to use sarcasm. I love sarcasm.
Yeah,
I think Jesus did. God did when he's talking to Job. I mean, there's a lot of good sarcasm used, and it can be inappropriate, but it can also be a fabulous teaching technique. But it is crazy that he knew. It's almost like he said, "Okay, I've got to allow myself to be crucified at some point." this is what they're hung on. This is what it's going to be. I'm just going to keep poking this bear of the Sabbath over and over and over until they eventually lose it. And they're so mad that they're just trying to find a reason to kill me.
Well, and if they would have changed, he wouldn't have had to keep saying it. So
Yeah.
like he has to keep bringing it up because they keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. And I think like, just to leave this section behind and move on so we don't just stay here all night, but it really comes down to Jesus is not about to play their religious games. He's like, look, you guys have been practicing a religion for 1,000 years, but you've lost the heart of it. And he's here for love. He's like, I'm here to show you like the two greatest commandments that he actually talks about. Love God with all that you are and love your neighbor as yourself. He's like, that's what I'm after. I'm not here to play the religious game and to look nice to everybody else. And I think if you stay in the Christianity circles long enough, and if you stay in churches long enough, you can find yourself to where people will lose sight of that. They will look down and they will give you a hard time because you're not interested in the religious traditions of Christianity as much as you are in loving God and loving others. And I think we have to be really careful of that because it is so easy for us to think of things as, well, this is a tradition, and we end up making it like a sacred cow that we can never touch, and it stays, in a church forever. Or, when we could, I don't want to pick anything specific there because then I will.
Yeah, you're skating on thin ice there.
I know, so we better just keep it moving. You dying to add something?
No, I just wondered what you was thinking about.
No, yeah, I'm sure you were.
That's a trap.
That is a trap. We're going to not take the bait because I, unlike Jesus, am not perfect and I will mess it up. So we're going to roll right into the next couple of verses. And this is the parable of the wedding feast. Kurt, you give us a summary?
All right. So he tells this parable and he looks around the room and he's seeing where everybody's sitting. And so he's still kind of lighting into these same guys about something new this time, about where they sit and who has a place of honor and who doesn't.
It really makes you wonder, when you invite Jesus to your house, do you really know what you're asking for?
Well, I think they kind of brought him there to, number one, set a trap for him. And to number two, it's a cool talking point to tell your friends, oh, yeah, Jesus was over at the house the other night. We had dinner. It was cool.
Yeah, just drop that casually in conversation.
But obviously, they didn't realize what they were getting themselves into. And it's funny that, like, the Pharisees keep coming after him and keep coming after him, keep coming after him. I think I said in a sermon one time, it's like Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny. Like, they keep showing up and they lose every time. But I guess that's the way it goes. But anyway, he's talking about these people and where they sit, and they exalt themselves and they want to be known as being something awesome. And he basically says, look, just sit at the end of the table, and if somebody thinks you're good, they'll move you up.
This is one of my favorite parables in the Bible because I think it's so practical, especially. So Kurt and I, we have been coaching teenage boys in football for how many years?
11 for me.
I think it's 15 or 16 for me. And it is, Kurt, how many students come through and they're just like, yeah, I'm not very good, but I sure do love football.
That don't happen much.
Not much. Most of them, I even remember, like, and Kurt, you've had them too. We have kids in class and they'll tell us, you'll ask them, this is not even a football class. It's just like your normal school class. And you're like, hey, you're trying to meet them the first couple of days. What's your plans in life? What do you hope to do? And you got these kids and they're like, oh, I'm going to play in the NBA. I'm like, really? You're 5'2" and you're not even on our high school basketball team. Like, how you going to get to the NBA? So that's the level of, we'll call it confidence, extreme confidence that they have. But I use this parable all the time to try to help them realize, like, hey, when you show up somewhere, instead of like going in there and trying to say or assume that you're the best and you're going to do this and just jump in there, like, it's always a lot better. And it even makes you look better if you go to like the lowest spot and then the teacher or the coach or whoever comes and says, whoa, no, not back there. You're not with the third string. Come up here and get in the first team, the first group. But man, it is a lot easier to say than to get teenagers, especially, to practice. But it would really pay off if we could get them to understand that.
Yep.
And I will say it's worked out for me. Like I try to practice this. Like there's no place where I go where we have like preferential seating at a table. But if I go somewhere and they're like, okay, who's in charge here? Who's done this? I try not to step up. And it's worked out really well for me when, the boss walks in and was like, oh, well, get up here and do this. Let's make this happen. But these guys apparently didn't. So I'm assuming that when he got there, they were all like crowding around the host table and were kind of like elbowing their way in. And they were, the people who got there late, they just kept getting pushed further and further down. So I wonder if like Jesus was invited there as like the guest of honor and he got there and there was no seat for him.
It's possible for sure. I would just imagine like when Fant and James go to sit at their table, they have their own table to eat supper at, and there's 2 chairs, and they're the exact same. But every night, you got my chair. And so I'm just thinking like Jesus walks into this room and these grown men are elbowing each other, trying to get to the head of the table. And he's just like, guys, come on now. This is ridiculous. Yes. But it made me think of like when we try to make more of ourselves than what we are, we're completely leaving God out of it.
Yeah.
And anytime I want to talk about how great Kurt is, I'm leaving God out of that equation. Mm-hmm. So I can either talk about how great Kurt is or I can talk about how great God is, and I'm really nothing. Yeah. And it took me to a quote I actually found today that really fit. It says, and whatever man does without God, he must fail miserably or succeed more miserably. That's from George MacDonald, but I thought that was perfect, man. Like, even if I do something without God and it's perfect, it's even worse than if I failed.
Anybody ever had an example where you were like either unexpectedly honored or humbled one way or the other? Like I was trying to think of some because I know I've witnessed some extreme forms of humility. There was this one time at a teacher meeting at Center Hill, and they were about to announce the like teacher of the month or something like that, and one of the teachers had already like started standing up because I thought it was them and it was not them. And I was like, oh, that's embarrassing.
And it wasn't me.
It wasn't Kurt. Kurt was in no danger of getting teacher of the month.
I was safe.
But I don't remember, like, they were like, later they told me, they were like, yeah, the principal said something to me and like had asked me, something, and I just thought that I was getting it. So I'll just go ahead and try to make sure I didn't trip or anything when I stood up. I was like, well, you look silly because it was not you. All right. Well, we're not going to stay too far, but how can we help encourage people, whether it's our kids or somebody else's kids or even our friends, to not try to make more of themselves than necessary?
Well, the first thing we got to do is show them how we conduct ourselves. Because, if I tell you don't eat green jelly beans and I eat all the green jelly beans, and what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to eat green jelly beans.
You're trying to figure out, why is he telling me not to eat them all? He ate them all. Like, right. There must be something. That was the most delicious. Well, no, there's no delicious jelly beans.
No, I don't eat jelly beans. I don't want to say jelly beans.
And it's that same kid that, and I know I'm talking about teenagers a lot, but that is, if you want to see like just some unbridled arrogance, go hang around a bunch of high school athletes, and it's unbelievable. But I would always tell them, like, hey, if you're that good, you don't have to tell people. Mm-hmm. Other people are going to say it for you. Like, if you are really as good as you're trying to tell me you are, well, then your coaches, your classmates, they're all going to tell me like, oh yeah, that guy's really, really good, or that girl's really good at, whatever they're playing. But if you're having to say it, you're probably not nearly as good as you think you are.
Well, and that's the advice I would give. If somebody hears something good about you, let it be from somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. Don't let you be the one to say it.
Right.
And instead, spend your time saying good things about other people.
Exactly.
Like that's hard to do because, we have this tendency of getting this like zero sum game of, okay, there's only 100 whatever buckets of compliments that can be out there. And well, if I give Kurt 20 of them, well, that means there's only 80 left and I'm losing out. I want, more.
Yeah.
But there's no limit on saying good things about people. I think we need to do a better job of just, complimenting each other. And especially when it comes to church Christianity and the things that we're doing for Christ, like we need to brag on Jesus because he's done quite an amazing work in all of us. And we'll kind of close with this one on this section. Excuse me. Jesus is the perfect example of this. He is literally God who came to earth as a baby and lived life in pretty rough terms. And he never went around telling people, I'm the Messiah, I'm awesome, I need you guys to get an army. Hey, why are you not worshiping me? Oh yeah, bring me more gold. And he never did any of that. Instead, he spent like his whole life walking around the earth telling people, hey, I'm here so that I can get you closer to the Father. Hey, there's someone coming after me who's going to be even better. He's the comforter. He's going to be amazing. And so like Jesus spent his whole time telling how great the Holy Spirit and the Father is. And I think we should do a lot more of that.
Philippians 2, starting in verse 5, have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross.
Yeah, and that's a good way to, so just think if you were in charge, like if you were God and you were like, okay, I'm going to come to earth and I'm going to save mankind. Would you pick a death like that? Like where they're hanging you naked in front of people and screaming at you and your whole family is, or not your family, but your friends have turned on you?
Like, I would come to earth looking like Macho Man Randy Savage is what I would do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody would just be following me around thinking I was the best thing in the world. It wouldn't have been good for me.
Because you were so humble.
Yeah.
No.
That's why I'm not Jesus.
Absolutely. But that's why we need him, because he's showing us that the things that don't come naturally, because the natural us tells us, no, get what's yours. Nobody else is going to give it to you. Don't wait on, don't trust them. Take it or you're going to lose it. Okay. And I think that's a really good place to stop this first one. Hopefully you guys will come back in a couple of days and hear the rest of it. Before we leave though, who wants to pray us out? All right. Pretty Poppy.
All right. Father God, I thank you for this day. Lord, I thank you because you're so good to us. Lord, I thank you because not only did you send Jesus to not just tell us how to live, but to show us how to live. Lord, I pray that you'll help us all to learn to love each other more, learn to love you more. And Lord, we do all of this just to bring people closer to you and just want to praise and adore your name. In Jesus' name, I do pray. Amen.